very evil, like the Draco reptilians, where they literally survive on energy. And specifically, they survive on the energy of fear, the energy of suffering, the energy of pain, the energy of trauma. And so when you get into this Pizzagate stuff, and why the hell would politicians sign up for something called North American Man-Boy Love Association, or NAMBLA? According to Peterson, 86% of Congress are members of NAMBLA. Now imagine what would happen if the full membership roster of NAMBLA were to be published. Imagine what would happen if we find out that even part of that number is true. Well, guess what? It already is happening. There already has been a revelation about the beloved American hero Bill Cosby with The Cosby Show. And he's doing all this crazy stuff. And yet, he had this show. And he was all the way on TV back during I Spy in the 1960s. Do you think they didn't know? Do you really think they didn't know when they were putting him out there as America's dad? And it's even worse in England, because there you have this character named Jimmy Savile, who was literally the front man for all the rock bands on the top program called Top of the Pops. And this guy continued to be on television right up until he died, with his final show being called Jim Will Fix It. And this guy is about as evil as you could ever imagine. He's got literally so many victims that they've estimated 1,450 victims. And some of the people who have testified have said that what he did was to go after them in a satanic ceremony where they're wearing robes and masks and chanting Ave Satanas, which in Latin means Hail Satan. And this guy is meeting with the Queen, the royal family. He's introducing us to the Beatles, to the Rolling Stones, to all the top 60s bands on television. He was a beloved hero. And he created 40-plus children's hospitals. And the data now suggests that each of these children's hospitals had a rape room where satanic ceremonies took place. That is public record, indisputable. So we already know. And then if it's happening over there, and Bill Cosby is one of the ones that's gotten caught over here, and everybody looks the other way. You have this famous actor, Corey Feldman, among several major figures who have said that Hollywood is pedophilia. That's the big dark secret of Hollywood. All kinds of stuff has come forward about this. Amy Berg did a whole documentary on this. It got suppressed. An Open Secret is the name of the film. You can now see it. Let's talk about Trump. Now, I'm not a Trump supporter, but I'm not a Trump hater either. I'm looking at this as an opportunity. I'm looking at this with an open mind. I'll tell you some of the things that I saw. I saw emails of Hillary bragging about how they could sacrifice a chicken to Moloch in the backyard. One of Hillary's associates writing her this as a joke. No, that's not freaking funny. I look at the fact that Hillary's own mentor, who she wrote her college thesis about, was Saul Alinsky, who dedicates his book to Lucifer in the 1970s. I got into the Pizzagate stuff, and we did not like it. The people I was dealing with, we worked on this as a team. It was very, very upsetting. And then look at what happens. WikiLeaks comes out with emails indicting people very close to Hillary's campaign. And if you have an open mind, it is not hard to see this is just more of the Jimmy Savile crap, but it's in America. Same crap. Very, very disturbing stuff. Then what starts to happen? The cabal decides to call everything that we talk about fake news, and through a totally undemocratic process that we cannot control, they take the distribution channels for alternative media that they themselves created, things like Google, things like Facebook, things like Apple News, things like Twitter. Half the time that people send me shit on Facebook, there's a little exclamation mark with a triangle around it that's in red. And it says, "This attachment cannot be loaded." I get those constantly because they made a decision, the cabal made a decision, oh, we have to protect you from fake news, so we're not even going to allow you to frickin' see it. Trump may be very disappointing to most of the people in this audience. Some of you may have been glad that he won. I don't know what you think. We were hearing beforehand that Trump had decided to work with the alliance. We were talking about this on Cosmic Disclosure. There were videos all over the internet about this. Cosmic Disclosure was getting advertised every day on the front page of Drudge Report, which was the main website probably that was responsible for Trump winning. Drudge drops links to Alex Jones all the time. Bilderberg, Illuminati. Alex Jones has done a lot of great information. He was just another one of the guys out there talking about this when I got online in 1995. Now he's got a huge empire. But the disservice that I feel Alex Jones is doing in certain respects is that he often goes at a very fast speed and cites a whole lot of information without having the citations that he includes in his talk to back it up. So he tosses out all this stuff, and what they're trying to do now, what the cabal is trying to do now, is act as if all of this trutherism is just an Alex Jones fever dream. And you can't take this guy seriously because he's crazy and he screams and he wears his socks on his ears and all this kind of stuff. And look, I laugh my ass off when I watch Alex Jones videos, okay? And he knows that. It's part of the game. It's funny. But I also know that if you follow through on a lot of the things that Alex Jones says, you'll discover he's telling the truth. And so, did I want the alliance-backed candidate to be this guy who has very obvious narcissistic personality disorder? No. Do I want to be out there politically endorsing a man who basically was the "you're fired" guy on Celebrity Apprentice? No. Okay? But you've got to look behind the obvious here. You've got to see what's going on. You've got to realize that we are in a civil war. We've never had somebody win a presidential election and take on the media the way that Trump has done. It's never happened before. Why did they try to shove Hillary through to become the presidential candidate when Bernie Sanders literally had a much better chance of defeating Trump? What the hell was that about? All we had to do is look at Watergate. All the frickin' guy Nixon did is he wiretapped his enemy's phone. Hillary had like 25 Watergates. And they kept coming out and coming out and coming out. And it's just, nope, we're going to shove her right through. They'd already printed copies of Newsweek where she had won the election. They already had it written and ready to go. I don't think they expected Trump to win. I really don't. And the guy's made a lot of mistakes, but you have to understand something here. The people that are behind him, whether you love it or hate it, they are not cabal. They are purging the cabal out of the government, the military, and the media. I look at Donald Trump as a battering ram that smashes the hole in the castle so everybody else can run in. It doesn't usually work out too well for the battering ram. Okay? But I want to be clear on this, and this is a very dicey thing to talk about. It's like you can't even talk about Trump in a positive way at all. I'm not even trying to talk about him positively, right? I've said a lot of things to knock the man here. But I'm just saying, let's not immediately go into this 180 fever dream where the only way, the only hope that we have is to impeach him as fast as we can. That's what the controlled cabal media is trying to tell us now. So he has all kinds of personality flaws and character defects, and he annoys the heck out of some of the people in my family to the point that they think he's Hitler, literally. And a significant number of people in American families have been torn apart by this election. But in a way, and you guys know this, the election was a referendum on how much truth you really understand. Because if you actually look at what Trump was really saying in these speeches, it's a lot of the same stuff that I've been saying for years and many other people on stages like this have been saying for years. Trutherism became mainstream, and trutherism frickin' won the U.S. presidential election. And that is amazing. It is amazing. So what we're hearing now is that there is a major push to prosecute Pizzagate on an official level. Why did Trump just fire the director of the FBI, James Comey? Because he wouldn't prosecute Pizzagate. That's what we're hearing from the inside sources. There are Trump has convened multiple secret grand juries to investigate this, and they are coming up with so much stuff. There is a massive alliance effort underway right now to eliminate the cabal. And I am not, again, saying these guys are angels. You have to understand this. The alliance are people who came out of the Illuminati, who turned their backs on what they were in. They may very well be Freemasons. They may very well be high-ranking Masons, 33rd degree Masons. They may very well be in the CIA. They may very well be in the NSA. We have to think differently. Be willing to accept that there are people who are fighting and dying for our future liberation from this evil satanic group. And don't get stuck on this idea that the only people who know about this are on the internet, sending internet chain letters around and watching YouTube videos. And it's us and them, and it's either YouTube and internet ghetto, or everybody else is the cabal. And everybody in the government's the cabal, and everybody in the military, and everybody in the intelligence service. It is not true. Trump was not supposed to win. That was not part of the plan. We're in some weird alternate, frickin' Willy Wonka, over the rainbow, parallel universe where where a reality TV star is now the President of the United States. A man who sold steaks named after himself that you would buy frozen in the mail.
And then what I just was getting to last time is that he predicted there would also be a cube interspersed inside our galaxy itself, which of course got me very excited when I read this, because I'd already figured out the same thing, not knowing that he postulated this in a much older book, because the book wasn't on his website till after he died and his wife uploaded it. So let's go through now that part of his book and see what he had to say and how it compares with fascinating real-world data. Let's take a look. So he predicted this stunning discovery many years in advance of a cubical energetic structure on a galactic scale. If you put a cube inside the galaxy and the galaxy rotates through it, that means that you're going to hit 4 corners, if you will, or 4 lines that are equally spaced from one another as the galaxy rotates once. And what you're seeing here is a diagram that I had made, and we'll explain this as we go on even more. But for right now, the important part is the exterior geometry, which here is an octahedron like 2 Egyptian pyramids base to base. Notice that this creates 4 nodes, and those nodes exist right in the plane where the stars are. So what I'm trying to get you to visualize here is that geometry is not moving, it's stationary, and the stars move through it. And then as we hit those corners, there is not only energetic releases from the stars involved, from the sun, but there is DNA reprogramming that takes place because this is intelligent, fractalized, holographic geometry. It's geometry that has the codes to change life. It is a living, conscious being. Even though it's a geometry, it also has a computer-like hard drive loaded with biological information and consciousness. So when we hit these things, we get ascension. We get DNA activation, we get consciousness acceleration, and in this case, we get a spiritual activation into some higher level of what it means to be human. And as I've been showing you in many of the previous episodes, we actually do see that galaxies have geometric patterns in the way they look. They're not just round. This geometry absolutely exists, and it's pushing them into certain shapes, which Aspen didn't know that, yet he still figured it out on his own. So let's take a look here at what he got. He called it the fourfold galactic cycle. He said, on a longer time scale, it is interesting to consider the circuital motion of the solar system in its galactic cycle and contemplate the fact that the Earth would cross the domain boundaries at different angles of incidence with a fourfold periodicity per galactic cycle. So that's the key. Just like I said, he's expecting a cube, and one of the problems with his model, and I'm not knocking him, but I'm just saying he only had cubes, and you have to add in the other sacred geometries as well, because as I've showed you multiple times, they all nest in with each other. They're all interconnected in this big holographic fractal universe. So when we hit those 4 corners, we would expect something to happen. Now, what did he just say in the last episode? He said that we have geomagnetic pole shifts taking place in approximately a 700,000 year cycle. He's equating that with a cube that we're passing through, which matches up very nicely with his theoretical calculations of what the cube would be based on the energy of our sun. So if we're actually seeing species disappearing and new species evolving as we hit these cubical walls, then he has laid the groundwork for the same discovery to be made if there is a cubical or octahedral structure like this on the galactic scale. Now, he didn't know that that had been done because the research hadn't even existed at the time that he made this theoretical statement. And yet, in the aftermath, we find that exact result. It is stunning. So let's take a look at this now. If we have, and you'll see why in a minute, the approximate age of the galaxy now, the age of its spin is 250 million years. It's very easy to shave off 2 million years, no problem. So what is 248 million years divided by 4? That would mean 4 places that are equidistant, right? So you get the same number of years between each of the 4 points. You divide 248 by 4 to get the distance between each cycle. And it comes out to 62 million years. We're not doing any fudge factors here. 248 million is a perfectly acceptable number for the spin of the galaxy. So we have a 62 million year cycle. It frickin' blew me away to find out a confirmation in the fossil record of this exact same length of time. Let's take a look now. So what you're seeing here is a diagram done by Robert Mueller and Robert Rode, 2 scientists from the University of California, Berkeley. And what they are doing is they're looking at the most exhaustive collection of fossils ever compiled by two earlier paleontologists, David Raup and James Sepkoski from University of Chicago. And what they found for the first time, and this is in the mid-2000s, was a new fossil cycle, which just so happens to be 62 million years long. That's right. Check it out. Let's read the caption. Cycles of extinction and biodiversity, meaning new life. Berkeley scientists have discovered that marine life has flourished and become extinct in unexplainable cycles, well, we know what it is, every 62 million years. In the most recent example in the chart below, many types of sponges grew most abundant and then vanished about 65 million years ago, the same period when a monster asteroid or comet or solar flash crashed to the Earth and drove the world's dinosaurs to extinction. This is heavy, heavy stuff.